Hello everyone, this is World Conspiracy Daily, WC Daily.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India and Xi Jinping of China meeting at Germany for the G20 Summit. Counter-terrorism and economic reforms will dominate the discussion amongst the leaders of world's 20 largest economies at the meeting of G20 in Germany next week, to be attended by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India. The 12th G20 Summit on July 7 to 8 in Hamburg, Germany, will also discuss the issues like free and open trade, climate change, migrations, sustainable development and global stability. The Prime Minister of India will lead the Indian delegation at the G20 meeting, which will also include the NITI Aayog Vice Chairman and India's G20 Sherpa Arvind Panagariya. Besides, the Department of Economic Affairs Secretary will also be there to lead the discussions on the finance track of the summit. G20 is the central forum of international cooperation on financial and economic issues. The G20 countries account for more than 4/5 of gross world products and 3/4 of global trade and are the home to almost 2/3 of world's population. The group of 20 is made up of 19 countries and the European Union. The countries are Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, France, Germany, India, Indonesia, Italy, Japan, Mexico, Russia, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, South Korea, Turkey, United Kingdom and the USA. Germany assumed the G20 presidency on December 1, 2016. In a media briefing about India engagements at G20 Summit, Dimri said it will begin with a 2-hour leader retreat on July 7 morning where the theme of discussion will be counter-terrorism. He said, this theme goes well with the Prime Minister of India engagement with other world leaders, and there is expectation that the issue of counter-terrorism will remain a separate thrust area as well as was the case with the G20 Summit in Antalya, Turkey last year. The summit will also include 4 working sessions including on growth and trade, climate and energy as well as on sustainable development and labor-related issues. Modi is leaving for Israel on July 4th for a 3-day visit and will go to Germany after that for the G20 meeting. The finance track of G20 meeting will include the discussions on issues like physical and monetary reforms, climate finance and green finance. Dimri said, open and free trade would be another area of focus at the summit deliberations, while a special focus on Africa is also expected, as it was one of the key thrust areas for host Germany's Chancellor Angela Merkel. Besides, women and the youth employment, gender inequality, reskilling and health will also figure among the discussions and outcome of the meeting. Advisors to the head of the state and the government, known as the Sherpas, have been preparing for this meeting for a long time, said Ministry of India. Asked whether Modi will also have bilateral with any of the other world leaders on the sidelines, the Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson Gopal Bagle said any bilateral meeting is announced very close to the event. There is a process involved in that. We will keep you informed as and when those things materialize, he said. On whether the leaders' retreat on the counter-terrorism would also include the issues like cross-border threats, Dimri said one has to understand that the summit was not taking place in any regional context and it was a global summit. He further observed that the summit was taking place in Germany and it was more logical that the event in Europe would figure with regard to the counter-terrorism related discussions. He also clarified that the leaders' retreat was not a formal session and the chair has decided to pull aside the world leaders for 2 hours for this retreat before opening of the summit on the subject of counter-terrorism. This shows the significance the world leaders attach to this issue, he said, while clarifying it was not one of the formal sessions where the discussions happen as per the agenda, and here the world leaders will interact with each other in the very intimate surrounding. At the same time, some outcomes should be expected as the leaders would be discussing this important issue, he said. On whether India can expect support on CCIT, the Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism, is a key anti-terror initiative at UN. Dimri replied in affirmative and said that CCIT has been there in most of the bilateral or the multilateral documents. Asked whether India was prepared to counter if China talks about its over the One Belt One Road initiative or the Belt and Road initiative, Dimri said, one needs to understand that such summits do not involve the leaders going and speaking at their own violation as there are fixed agenda points for discussions that get finalized after the rounds of meeting by the Sherpas. These are not one-off meetings that have been preceded by a number of meetings through the year, including of works groups, meetings of Sherpas, and they have bunched up agenda upon the multiple streams, and Uber has not been discussed so far, he said. On the recent tension between India and China in the border issue of Sikkim, there will be no discussions. It may be at the sidelines of the summit before it happens. Xi Jinping, the president of China, and the Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, may meet and discuss about the Sikkim border issue, which is not common in an informal meeting. So what do you think of the G20 Summit happening in next few weeks, while Xi Jinping and Narendra Modi is going to meet and discuss the border issues for themselves? Will there be any solutions, or it may be lead to some sort of battle? Post your comments below. And if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and follow us on social networks and subscribe to our channel. And thanks for watching. This is WC Daily. Think big, think different. Bye.